Commanders fans, we might have a problem here, as ESPN's Adam Schefter said today on the Pat McAfee show that Jayden Daniels, the presumptive favorite to be the Commanders' number 2 pick next week in the NFL draft, wants to play elsewhere, not named the Washington Commanders. Now, that's seriously concerning. Now, today's show is going to be all about whether the Commanders should still pick Jayden Daniels at number 2 overall, even if he doesn't want to play here for the first portion of his NFL career. We'll be talking about that in detail today, so make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we're going to have you guys covered with in-depth Commanders coverage all throughout draft week, leading up to the big night next Thursday, where we're going to be going live for our coverage of the 2024 NFL Draft in Round 1, where we're going to react together to Roger Goodell letting us know who the new franchise quarterback is going to be for the Washington Commanders. So for all that coverage, make sure you click that subscribe button right now. And with that, let's get into today's show. Today's top story is that ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter has said that Jayden Daniels has quote-unquote interest in playing for other NFL teams not named the Washington Commanders, and that his visit, and should I say the mass visit that Jayden Daniels went on with the Washington Commanders with a bunch of different prospects, isn't exactly what Daniels and his team were expecting heading into the week. This is what Schefter had to say earlier today. It didn't seem to go over well, talking about the meeting with his agent, who sounded off on social media that he didn't seem particularly pleased with the process. Daniels thought it would be a visit just for him, but Washington essentially opened up the process. And we talked about this story yesterday on the Commanders Report, so I'll put the link to that one in the comments and description if you want more details on all the things that have been happening with Daniels' agent and talking about the mass visit that the Washington Commanders did earlier this week. And then Schefter continues here by saying the Commanders are going through it after this week, when again, I think it's a situation where from the outset, Jayden Daniels has had interest in being other places, talking about other than the Washington Commanders. He just has. Now the interest is, what do the Commanders do about that? Now, my take on this situation, guys, is that if I'm taking a quarterback at number 2 overall, and I'm asking that guy to be the franchise quarterback of my football team, especially with a new head coach trying to establish a new culture, I want that quarterback to be 100% bought in. And right now, it just doesn't seem like Jayden Daniels is all that enthusiastic about being the franchise quarterback of the Washington Commanders. So even though you can make an argument, and I would make the argument that he is the best fit for the Washington Commanders moving forward to be their starting quarterback of the future. I think he's got explosive ability as a rusher. He's got really clean and fluid throwing mechanics. He's got a great deep ball, all these different advantages to his profile that I think makes him the best fit. And that's exactly why this hurts, because you guys know I've been advocating for the Commanders to take Jayden Daniels over the last several weeks, but I'm also in the camp where it's like, if he doesn't want to be here and he's not 100% ready to take on the mantle of being the face of this franchise, then I'm probably going to want to go in a different direction. Now, the big question is, who should be the pick at number 2? I mean, should they still go with the best fit in Jayden Daniels, or should they look elsewhere to one of the other quarterbacks that they brought in on that mass top 30 visit earlier this week? So let me know down there in the comment section, who do you think should be the guy here? So these are the 4 quarterbacks that the Commanders brought in earlier this week. Who should be the pick? Type JD if you still think it should be Jayden Daniels. Type DM for Drake Maye. JJ for JJ McCarthy, or MP for Michael Penix Jr. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. So I'll say right now, guys, I don't think it's going to be Michael Penix Jr. And the reason why I say that is that if the Commanders really like Penix, I think they would probably trade down from where they currently are drafting, get a huge draft haul of future first-round draft picks. We know there's a lot of teams that would love to trade up to number 2, and then they would take Michael Penix sometime later in the first round when he's still available. But because of the fact that Adam Peters says we're good sticking at number 2. He said that yesterday in his pre-draft press conference. I really don't think the move is going to be stick at 2 and take Michael Penix Jr. when you could probably trade back, get a haul, and still get Penix later on in the first round. So I really do think if it's not Daniels, it's going to be a choice between UNC's Drake Maye or Michigan's J.J. McCarthy. So coming up here, I'm going to give you guys my scouting reports on both, and I'm going to let you know which one I would rather draft at number 2 overall if Jayden Daniels is off the board for the Commanders. But before we get into that, I want to have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics, and you can use our link, chatsports.com/24DH, to get an exclusive offer on this awesome, officially licensed 2024 draft hat for the Washington Commanders. No matter what quarterback they end up taking in round 1, guys, they're going to be wearing this hat right here. So if you want to own a piece of Commanders history in this really historic draft class for the Washington Commanders, now is the best time to get in on the action here before they sell out of these hats. So go ahead right now, chatsports.com/24DH. I'm going to put the link to that in the comments and description of today's show so you guys don't miss out. Make sure you go to chatsports.com/24DH today to let Fanatics know that we sent you. So now let's start with Drake Maye, and we've obviously talked a lot about Drake Maye on the channel here over these last several months, kind of determining who the best pick is for this team at number 2 overall. And listen, man, there's lots to like about Drake Maye's profile. He's got the ideal size you look for, really good playmaking instincts, which really gives him that super high ceiling, and why people compare his game to like Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, all those different things. He's got supreme arm strength. I wouldn't say it's quite as strong as a Josh Allen or a Justin Herbert, but he has a strong arm, and then he is a plus rusher. He's not going to be like a dynamic kind of guy like Jayden Daniels is, but he can definitely move around, and you have to account for him, especially when you're in man coverage. But the cons, guys, and they're pretty serious red flags. Pocket footwork leading to accuracy concerns to every level of the field. Now, I still have a top 5 grade on Drake Maye because if you're a team with good infrastructure, if you have a good quarterback that can start for a year and Drake Maye can kind of maybe sit for a year, I think he's got the opportunity to be like a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson and be somebody that develops over time into a star quarterback in the National Football League, and that's worth taking a chance on. But the accuracy concerns are 100% legit, guys. Let's take a look at the numbers for accuracy for Drake Maye this past season, and when it comes to on-target percentage, all right? Because we like to throw on completion percentage and all these different things, but how accurate are you? Well, Sports Info Solutions has a stat called on-target percentage, which is the amount of throws that are right on target. So you look at this statistic from May last year. Short area throws, 0 to 9 yards, 92nd out of 123 quarterbacks eligible in college football last year. That's abysmal. And then even worse, in the intermediate level of the field, he ranked 101st out of 103 quarterbacks. Didn't even crack the top 100 in the on-target percentage to that area. That's seriously concerning. And then down the field, it's a little bit better at 40th out of 78. But it's not like Drake Maye has the consistency that you're looking for. And I do think he's going to take a little bit of time, and he's going to need some serious discipline and development at the next level. And you guys have heard me on the show before talk about how I'm not a big fan of Cliff Kingsbury and his ability to develop quarterbacks. You look at what he did with Patrick Mahomes for 3 years there at Texas Tech, and his footwork was a complete mess. His mental processing was all over the place. Throwing mechanics were all over the place, and he had to go to the NFL to really develop into really the best quarterback of our generation. So I'm not a big fan of Cliff Kingsbury and his ability to develop quarterbacks, and a guy like Drake Maye who seriously needs that development, I'm not sure if that's a good fit, and I have serious worries that Drake Maye would be a bust with the Washington Commanders if he is the pick at number 2 overall. We did an entire video breaking down my concerns between this fit between Drake Maye and Cliff Kingsbury, the Washington Commanders' new offensive coordinator. I'll also put the link to that in the comments and description of today's show. So now the question begs, is J.J. McCarthy a better option? And I think there's an argument to be made that he is. Now, you take a look at his scouting report here, and I have, full disclosure, I have Maye ranked higher than McCarthy on my list of quarterback prospects this year because I think he has a lower upside. And he does have accuracy concerns just like Maye, but it's more specific with McCarthy where it's more down the field is where the accuracy concerns start to show up. But McCarthy plays with good footwork. He plays with good throwing mechanics. He's got great intangibles, which I know Dan Quinn and Adam Peters are going to absolutely love. He is a plus rusher, and really, J.J. McCarthy does his best work outside of structure and outside of the pocket, in my opinion. He's really good at creating outside of the pocket. He's a good thrower on the run, and that fits with what Cliff Kingsbury would want to do here in Washington. And you look at Cliff and the guys he's had success with, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, all these different guys that he's worked with, Johnny Manziel, all of them are out-of-structure playmakers, and I think that's where J.J. McCarthy is at his best. Now, McCarthy has his issues. The touch passing needs a lot of work. That's something McCarthy himself has acknowledged. Decision-making, it needs to be a little bit better in terms of throwing the ball down the field. I think sometimes he can pass up really big opportunities down the field for checkdowns. That's something that needs to get better. And I think, you can definitely make an argument he's the better fit than Drake Maye. He's more ready to play in the NFL right away, at least in my opinion. But he does have upside concerns because, like I said, he's conservative. He's not the best overall athlete like a Daniels or Caleb Williams. His arm is good. I wouldn't say it's like a super bendy, really dynamic arm like a Williams or an Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes. I do think he has limitations, and I have my worries about taking a guy like this at number 2 overall, right? So it's definitely a pickle that the Commanders are in right now. And this is pretty much how your options break down at the quarterback position. You could go with Jayden Daniels, who is probably the best fit overall for your system, but he's not enthusiastic about being your number 1 quarterback potentially. You could go with Drake Maye, who does have that high upside that you look for in a number 2 quarterback, but I don't think it's a great fit. And then you look at J.J. McCarthy with Michigan. It's a good fit here. I think it would work out well. He doesn't have to do a lot of development in terms of his footwork or with his throwing mechanics like Drake Maye does, but there's limited upside there. So is that really worth the number 2 overall pick? And you look at these 3 options, and none of them really catch your eye as like, yes, that is clearly the best answer for this football team. And that really makes this a pickle for the Washington Commanders over the next 6 days as they decide who they're going to take at number 2 overall. Now, if you're asking me right now what I think the decision is going to be, is I think it's going to be Drake Maye, because like we've been talking about, he does have that superstar upside. I compare his game to Deshaun Watson when he was coming out of Clemson, who also had some pretty big concerns coming out of college with his accuracy and all these different things, but he ended up developing. Now, Drake Maye, if he comes here to Washington, I will be behind him 100%. I'm going to support him and Cliff, and I really hope that he works out. And if he does, the Commanders are going to have a star quarterback on their hands. And I do think that these coaches in the NFL, they always say, I can fix him, right? And if they see that upside, and especially if they're picking at number 2, they're going to look at a guy like Drake Maye with all the arm talent and playmaking ability, and they're going to say, if Jayden Daniels doesn't want to be here, fine. Drake Maye does, and he has that high upside. He's my quarterback. So if I have to predict it right now, I think Drake Maye is probably going to be the pick next Thursday night. So now what I would do personally, my plan A would be to get on the phone with Daniels' representation and say, hey, man, what's going on here? All right, does he want to be a Washington Commander or not? All right, if he doesn't, then you don't take him, and you go into plan B, which is trade down, which I know Peters has already said he's not going to do, but this is what I would do here. If you're not going to get Jayden Daniels, I would rather trade down and get Michael Penix Jr., who I think is an excellent fit for this air raid style of offense that Cliff Kingsbury wants to run. He can play right away. He's played a lot of football. Or I'd be okay with J.J. McCarthy if you trade down and get a haul of picks. I'm probably not okay with taking McCarthy at number 2. However, it's just a complete mess at this point, guys, plain and simply. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. When it comes to Jayden Daniels, do you think he would want to come to the Washington Commanders and be this team's next franchise quarterback? Simply give me a yes or no down there in the comment section to let me know how you're feeling. That'll be it for today's edition of the Commanders Report, guys. Appreciate your support 100%. Thank you guys so much for everything that you give to us here on the channel. We try to give you guys the best damn Commanders coverage for free here on YouTube, so make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time, hail to the Commanders.